In Amarillo, the fries stay hot, but the rules keep you alive. Welcome to Night Creepypasta Rules, where fast food meets slow death and corporate policy hides something older than flame broiling. Tonight, we're clocking in at the last Burger King on the edge of nowhere, where 3 rules keep the night crew from disappearing off the schedule and off the face of the earth. Stick around until the end. This story has a twist darker than the fry oil. And trust me, you do not want to miss it. Got a weird rule at your job? Drop it in the comments. And if you're brave enough to come back after hours, subscribe. One new horror every week. Because on this channel, the closing shift never ends. Working the graveyard shift at the loneliest Burger King in Amarillo comes with the usual perks: the lingering scent of stale coffee, floors perpetually sticky, regardless of mopping, and 3 rules that absolutely nobody mentions in the officially employee handbook. Rules you follow, or rules you break and vanish like yesterday's grease trap scrapings. My headlights cut through the oppressive Texas dark, finally illuminating the faded, slightly flickering BK sign rising like a lonely beacon off the I-40 access road. The building itself looked tired, huddled under the vast star-dusted sky, surrounded by miles of flat, empty plains that seemed to swallow sound. Pulling my sputtering Civic into the cracked, mostly empty parking lot, I killed the engine and the silence crashed in, broken only by the distant rumble of an 18-wheeler barreling down the highway. Taking a deep breath, I pushed open the heavy glass door and stepped inside. The air hit me first, an unnatural chill from overworked air conditioning warring with the cloying, inescapable smell of old fryer grease and harsh chemical cleaners. Fluorescent lights buzzed aggressively overhead, casting a sickly greenish pallor on the worn linoleum floors and the faded plastic booths. It felt less like a restaurant, more like a way station on the road to nowhere. Behind the counter, wiping down the stainless steel with slow, methodical movements, stood Dale Harper. He looked exactly like his phone interview sounded. Tired, deep lines etched around his eyes, shoulders slumped under the slightly too large polyester uniform. A name tag reading, Dale. Manager pinned crookedly. He didn't smile, just nodded. Maya Flores? His voice was flat, resigned. Right on time. Good. He gestured vaguely. Kevin's in the back. Mostly minds the fryers and drive-through when it gets busy, which it won't. Kevin, a lanky kid, maybe a year or 2 younger than me, gave a half-hearted wave from the kitchen doorway before disappearing again. Dale gave me the nickel tour, the temperamental shake machine, the forever-leaking soda dispenser, the walk-in freezer that hummed like an ancient beast. Then he pulled me aside, near the large, brightly lit menu board, displaying slightly faded pictures of burgers and fries. His voice dropped, losing its bored monotone, replaced by a quiet, dead seriousness that made the hairs on my arms stand up. All right, Flores. Forget the corporate training videos. This place, it's different. You want to keep this job. You want to walk out of here when the sun comes up. You follow my rules. For this location only. Got it? He didn't wait for an answer. He didn't wait for an answer. He tapped a greasy laminated card he pulled from his shirt pocket, unnervingly similar to the one described in that other story outline I discarded in my mind. If someone asks, "Is it still 1997?" say yes and walk away. If the menu board starts flashing names, cover it with the mop. If someone orders food in a language you don't know, don't ask them to repeat. I stared at the words, my brain struggling to compute. Was this a joke? Some bizarre small-town hazing ritual? Names? I asked, the words sounding hollow. What names? Doesn't matter what names. Dale snapped, his eyes flicking nervously towards the menu board. You see him flash. You get the mop from the closet. Prop it up. Cover that section. Quick like. And the 97 question. Yes, then walk away. Don't look back at the car or the customer. Just get busy. And the language thing, he sighed, rubbing his temples. Just punch in a number 2 combo. Standard. Give him the total. Don't try to understand. Don't ask questions. Break these rules. He leaned closer, his voice dropping to a whisper, smelling faintly of stale cigarettes and desperation. Break 'em, and you're not just fired, Flores. People who break the rules here, they don't clock out. My stomach twisted. This was insane. But looking at Dale's dead serious eyes, the genuine fear lurking beneath the exhaustion, I believed him. Or at least, I believed he believed him. And I needed this job. Needed the money to finally get out of my parents' suffocating house. Needed the late hours where, hopefully, he wouldn't know where to find me. So I nodded, my throat dry. Okay, yeah, I understand. The first few hours of the shift were dead quiet, depressingly normal. I wiped down counters already clean, refilled napkin dispensers, checked the bathrooms. Kevin mostly stayed in the back, the silence broken only by the hum and buzz of the restaurant's aging machinery and the occasional whoosh of a truck passing on the interstate, its headlights briefly sweeping the empty dining room. Near midnight, an old man shuffled in, Mr. Abernathy according to Dale's brief nod. He ordered a small black coffee, paid an exact change, and sat in a booth near the back, just staring out at the dark highway, occasionally muttering to himself. He fit the desolate atmosphere perfectly. Then around 2 a.m., headlights cut across the parking lot. A dusty, beat-up sedan, older model, maybe late 80s, whirled to a stop at the drive-through speaker. I put on the crackling headset, forcing my voice into the cheerful, company-approved greeting. "Welcome to Burger King. Can I take your order?" Silence for a moment, just the hiss of static. Then a man's voice, muffled, distant sounding, filtered through the cheap speaker. "Excuse me, miss," he said, a strange hesitation in his tone. Is it still 1997? Yes, the word felt brittle, wrong, as it left my lips into the crackling drive-through speaker. I ripped the headset off and spun away, heart hammering, forcing myself to wipe down an already gleaming counter, refusing to look back towards the window. Rule of 1. Walk away. The silence stretched, amplifying the hum of the freezers. Then the distinct sound of an old engine sputtering, followed by tires crunching slowly on the gravelly asphalt as the beat-up sedan pulled away. The static hiss from the headset on the counter seemed louder for a moment, almost angry, before settling back into its usual low hum. The air tasted stale, heavy. Just some local jokers? I asked Dale later, when the knot in my stomach had loosened slightly. He was meticulously restocking ketchup packets, his movements jerky. He shrugged, not meeting my eye. Could be, or just confused. Happens out here. Kevin, overhearing from the fire station, muttered something that sounded suspiciously like ghost car, before Dale shot him a silencing glare. A quick search on my phone during a lull revealed patchy local news reports from late '97. A bad multi-car pileup on I-40 near this exit. Rumors of a missing person never found. Nothing concrete, but enough to make my skin crawl. Mr. Abernathy on his coffee run just shook his head when I tried to subtly probe. "Time gets thin out here, girl," he rasped, staring out the window. Things bleed through. The rest of the shift felt charged. A brief power surge made the lights flicker violently, plunging the restaurant into momentary, heart-stopping darkness before the backup generator kicked in with a groan. All right. In that single second of blackness, I could have sworn I heard a chair scrape across the floor in the empty dining area. Afterwards, every sound seemed magnified. The sizzle from the empty fryer sounded like sibilant whispering just beyond my hearing. The shadows cast by the buzzing fluorescent lights seemed to twist into watching figures. I jumped when a stack of plastic trays clattered inexplicably in the back. Just the settling of the old building, I told myself. But the explanation felt thin, flimsy. I was wiping down tables, trying to shake the jitters, when my gaze drifted up to the menu board. Bright, garish pictures of food, familiar prices. Then, for less than a heartbeat, The section displaying Whopper Jr. meal dissolved into flickering, scrolling letters. Not random static. Definite letters. Zara B. Michael Tit. Anna. It snapped back to the Whopper Jr. before I could fully process it, leaving phantom letters dancing in my vision. My breath caught in my throat. Rule 2. It was happening. My hand shook as I fumbled for the mop Dale had insisted be kept propped near the counter, not in the back closet. It felt greasy, heavy. With clumsy haste, I lifted it, the wet, stringy head bumping against the ceiling tiles, and managed to angle it so it covered the flickering Whopper Jr. section of the menu board. The effect was immediate. The frantic energy that had seemed to emanate from the board abruptly cut off, like silencing a scream. The buzzing of the overhead lights seemed to deepen, the shadows in the corners darkening perceptibly, as if the restaurant itself held its breath. Covering it didn't fix anything. It felt like I just slammed a door on something trying to get through. The quiet that followed was worse than the flickering. It felt charged, waiting. Then, faint but unmistakable, a dry whispering started up from the drive-through speaker, though the vehicle-detected light remained stubbornly off. Not English, not Spanish, just layered, sibilant sounds like dry leaves skittering across concrete. I ripped the headset off again, heart pounding. Simultaneously, a wave of unnatural cold rolled through the kitchen doorway, making Kevin yelp and drop a fry basket with a clang. "Dude, did you feel that?" he hissed, eyes wide, his earlier joking gone. "It's like a walk-in freezer just opened." Mr. Abernathy came in later, seemingly oblivious, ordered his coffee, and sat down. Before leaving, he pushed a wadded-up napkin across the counter towards me. "Might need this," he mumbled, and shuffled out. I unfolded it later. It wasn't trash. It was a hastily sketched drawing. A rough map of the highway interchange near the BK, with a strange spiral symbol drawn directly over the restaurant's location, and jagged lines radiating outwards, cryptic and unsettling. The next shift, Dale was acting differently. Tense, irritable. He spent an hour installing a sleek new security camera above the counter, angled perfectly to view both the registers and the entire menu board. "Corporate mandate," he grunted when I asked. "Inventory control." But the intensity of his gaze as he checked the feed on his tablet felt like personal surveillance. He seemed to be remotely dimming or brightening the main lights throughout the night, too. Testing something, his fingers drumming nervously on the counter. It was just after 3 a.m., during that deadest hour where the world outside seems to cease existing, that the bell over the door chimed. A man stood there, blinking slowly in the harsh light. Average height, nondescript clothes, pale skin, eyes that didn't quite seem to focus on me. He drifted towards the counter, bypassing the empty booths. He opened his mouth, and what came out was a stream of sounds that belonged nowhere on Earth. Guttural clicks, soft, breathy whistles, long melodic vowels that seemed to hang in the air like smoke. He was asking for something, ordering food. Rule 3 crashed down on me. Don't ask them to repeat. My mind blanked. The sounds were alien, hypnotic, tugging at some part of my brain that desperately wanted to understand, to connect. I forced the instinct down, hard. Don't ask. Don't engage. My fingers, feeling thick and clumsy, fumbled on the PO screen, hitting the preset for the number 2 combo. Whopper, medium fries, medium Coke. Dale's contingency. The screen flashed the total. "That'll be $7.89, I said, my voice a strained whisper. The pale man tilted his head slightly, his unfocused eyes sliding past me. He reached into his pocket and laid 3 coins on the counter. They looked wrong. Dull gray metal, too light, stamped with symbols that weren't letters or numbers, vaguely reminiscent of Abernathy spiral. Before I could even react or question the payment, he simply wasn't there anymore. One moment standing at the counter, the next empty space. the faint smell of ozone lingering. The front door hadn't opened or closed. He had just vanished. The 3 strange coins sat on the counter, feeling unnervingly cold to the touch. Just as I scooped the coins into a spare napkin, lightning cracked outside, thunder rattling the windows immediately after. The lights flickered violently, threatening to plunge us into darkness again. Through the rain-lashed front windows, I saw headlights approaching. The beat-up sedan from the other night, the 1997 Asker. It didn't pull into the drive-thru. It just began slowly circling the parking lot, its headlights sweeping the interior like searchlights through the storm. Simultaneously, the damaged menu board went completely haywire, flashing not just names but jumbled images, static bursts, and random price points, the light strobing painfully in time with the thunderclaps. "What the hell is going on?" Kevin yelled from the kitchen, backing away from the doorway, eyes wide with terror. The lights, the car, the menu. This isn't normal. Maya, Dale! He rounded on Dale, who was frantically trying to reboot the PO system which had frozen during the power surge. You gotta tell us what this place is. We gotta get out of here." "Shut up, Kevin," Dale snarled, slamming his hand on the counter, his composure finally cracking. "You want to keep your job? You want to walk out of here at all? You keep your mouth shut and you follow the damn rules." His eyes darted towards the circling car, then the strobing menu, then back to the newly installed camera, a desperate, cornered look on his face. The storm raged for an hour, the car circling relentlessly, the menu flashing its cryptic, terrifying messages. When the rain finally eased and the car drove off into the pre-dawn gloom, the silence felt heavy, dangerous. While Dale was preoccupied trying to fix the menu board remotely with frantic calls to some unseen tech support, I slipped into the cramped back office. Driven by a desperate hunch, I checked the wiring behind Dale's monitor. The feed from the new security camera didn't go to the standard DVR in the closet. It snaked away, connected to a small, unmarked black box humming faintly, with a blinking modem light suggesting an external connection. Someone else was watching. Corporate? Or someone else entirely? Tapped to the underside of the desk drawer, I found a yellowed envelope containing faded incident reports dating back to 97 and 98. Brief, heavily redacted notes about temporal displacement, auditory phenomena, personnel disorientation, and multiple unexplained equipment malfunctions. This wasn't just happening now. It had always been happening. My blood ran cold. Just as I slid the envelope back, my phone buzzed. It was Dale, from the front counter, his voice tight, urgent. "Flores, office. Now." I walked out, heart pounding. Dale stood by the registers, looking pale and sick. "Just got a call," he said, unable to meet my eyes. "Corporate, regional supervisors making a surprise overnight inspection. He'll be here any minute, any minute." He gripped the counter edge. "Everything," he repeated, his voice barely a whisper. "Everything has to look normal, no matter what happens. Understand?" Headlights swept the parking lot, pinning us like startled rabbits. A late-model black sedan, unnervingly clean, pulled silently into a space near the entrance. Dale visibly flinched, straightening his already straight name tag. Kevin muttered something that sounded like a prayer under his breath. The car door opened, and the supervisor stepped out. He, or maybe it, was nondescript to the point of being disturbing. Gray suit, neutral expression, eyes that seemed to absorb the flickering fluorescent light without reflecting it. He moved with an eerie quietness, gliding more than walking into the restaurant. The air grew heavy, charged, the hum of the freezers deepening into an anxious thrum. "Mr. Harper," the supervisor said, his voice perfectly modulated, devoid of any accent or inflection. "An unscheduled performance review." His gaze swept the interior, lingering for a fraction too long on the menu board, the drive-through window, and then, unsettlingly, on me and Kevin. Dale practically tripped over himself, trying to appear competent. Yes, sir, Mir? Sorry. The district office didn't forward your name. Irrelevant. The supervisor cut him off smoothly. Begin standard closing procedures. We will observe, as Dale, sweating profusely, began barking nervous orders at Kevin to clean the fryers. It started, not gradually, but like a switch being flipped. The menu board exploded into a chaotic frenzy. Names, dates, mostly 1997. Faces flickering too fast to recognize. Static bursts. And the Burger King logo twisting into unrecognizable symbols. Almost simultaneously, the drive-through bell dinged. On the monitor, I saw the beat-up sedan again. The muffled voice crackled through the speaker. Is it still 1997? Before I could even react, the front door chimed, and another customer, pale and vacant-eyed like the one before, walked straight to the counter and began speaking in that same impossible language of clicks and sighs. Handle it, Flores, Dale hissed, eyes darting between the phenomena and the supervisor, who was watching everything with unnerving clinical detachment. My mind raced. Rule 1, Rule 2, Rule 3, all at once. I yelled, yes, into the headset, spun away from the window, grabbed the mop and shoved it frantically against the strobing menu board. The lights dimmed sickeningly. I turned to the clicking customer, numbly punched in the number 2 combo, took the weirdly light coins without looking, shoved them in my pocket. Chaos. Pure, paralyzing chaos. Fascinating, the supervisor murmured, stepping closer, ignoring Dale's frantic attempts to explain it away as electrical issues. The resonance is stronger tonight. Increased temporal friction. He looked directly at me. Employee Flores, you experienced all 3 primary protocols tonight. Describe the subjective temporal displacement during Protocol 1. I don't know what you mean. I stammered. Kevin looked ready to bolt. He means the damn ghost car, Dale burst out, his voice cracking. Sir, this location, it's sensitive. Residual temporal echoes from the 97 incident. Corporate knows it's contained. The rules work. The supervisor gave a thin, humorless smile. Contain? Mr. Harper, your containment is failing, and corporate has delegated direct oversight. He held up a small metallic device, dull gray, humming faintly with captured fluorescent light. It looked disturbingly similar to the strange coins. My oversight. He adjusted something on the device. We're initiating recalibration. Recalibration, Dale whispered, his face draining of color. No, that protocol, it's only for catastrophic breaches. It hasn't been used since the initial event. The supervisor finished calmly, which this location seems determined to replicate. Unacceptable. He aimed the device at the wildly flashing menu board. No! Kevin screamed. Finally snapping, he grabbed a heavy plastic tray and hurled it like a discus. It hit the supervisor's arm, knocking the device sideways just as he activated it. Instead of hitting the menu board, a beam of shimmering, heatless energy shot out, striking the already stressed drive-through speaker system. All hell broke loose. The speaker exploded inwards with a shower of sparks and a sound like tearing fabric. Time itself seemed to stutter. High, flickering, translucent figures. People in outdated clothes. Paramedics, police officers, flickered in and out of existence throughout the restaurant, their silent screams echoing alongside the clicking language and the 1997 question, now repeated from multiple points in the room. The menu board became a swirling vortex of light and distorted faces, names howling unintelligibly. The air grew thick, reality bending, the floor seeming to tilt. The supervisor snarled, retrieving his device. His calm facade, shattering, revealing something cold and predatory beneath. He lunged towards Kevin, who scrambled backwards. Dale screamed, "Lockdown! Protocol 7!" and fumbled for a panic button under the counter. Red emergency lights began to flash. Klaxons blared, and heavy metal shutters started slowly descending over the windows and doors. "No lockdown!" I yelled, grabbing the mop again, not to cover the board, but swinging its greasy head at the supervisor. He deflected it easily, almost contemptuously, but it bought Kevin a second, remembering Abernathy's spiral, the menu board vortex. Maybe disruption was key. I grabbed a nearby fire extinguisher. "Kevin, the chemicals." I screamed, spraying blinding foam towards the supervisor, who recoiled with a hiss of annoyance. Kevin, catching on, grabbed bottles of industrial cleaner, ammonia, bleach, from under the counter. "Don't mix," Dale started to yell, but Kevin was already splashing them wildly towards the sparking, shorting remnants of the drive-through speaker and the base of the menu board portal. The reaction was instantaneous and violent. Acrid fumes filled the air. Lights exploded overhead, and the swirling vortex on the menu board pulsed erratically, spitting out crackling energy. The translucent 1997 figures flickered violently and dissolved. The clicking language stopped. The supervisor staggered back, clutching his device, which sparked and died. He looked directly at me, his eyes momentarily filled with pure, ancient malice, and then simply dissolved into shimmering heat haze, leaving only the faint smell of ozone and burnt sugar. The metal shutter slammed down, plunging us into the red, fume-filled emergency lighting. The menu board went dark with a final pop. The klaxons died. Silence, absolute and deafening, descended, broken only by our ragged gasps and the frantic, terrified pounding of my own heart. We were trapped inside the wrecked, suddenly still Burger King. The silence screamed louder than the klaxons had. Red emergency lights painted everything in bloody hues, casting long, distorted shadows from the overturned tables and scattered debris. The air burned with the acrid stench of bleach, ammonia, and ozone. A chemical cocktail that stung my eyes and throat. Kevin coughed violently beside me, his face pale and smeared with soot under the crimson glow. Did we kill it?" he whispered, his voice hoarse, staring at the spot where the supervisor had dissolved into heat haze. "I don't know," I breathed, scanning the wreckage. The menu board was dark, cracked, silent. The drive-through speaker was a melted ruin. Equipment was smashed. The floor slick with a hazardous mix of spilled soda, chemical cleaner, and fire extinguisher foam. "Dale?" I called out tentatively. No answer. A quick check showed the back emergency door, usually bolted from the inside during closing, was slightly ajar, a scuffed trail leading through the chemical puddles towards it. He had hit the lockdown and bailed, trapping us inside to deal with the fallout. The coward. The bastard. He locked us in. Kevin realized, rattling the main door shutters. Solid steel. The windows were likewise sealed tight. We're trapped. Panic threatened to swamp me, but the adrenaline surge from the fight hadn't faded. Okay, I said, forcing calm into my voice. Think, what did Dale say? Protocol 7. Lockdown. There has to be an override. Somewhere in the office, we navigated the debris carefully. In the small office, files were scattered, Dale's chair overturned. Evidence of his hasty departure. Taped beneath the desk, just as I'd seen it before, was the yellowed envelope. I ripped it open this time. Incident reports. Weird symbols, memos referencing temporal containment procedures. Acceptable personnel attrition rates, and anomaly class. Echo Nexus. This wasn't just known, it was managed. We were lab rats in a cage designed by corporate indifference and managed by Dale's fear. As Kevin frantically searched the office for a lockdown release switch, my foot hit something small and metallic near where the supervisor confronted Dale. I bent down, picking it up. It was the device he'd held, or one like it. Cool gray metal, fitting oddly in my palm, humming with a faint, almost imperceptible vibration. One side was smooth, the other etched with symbols that seemed to shift and rearrange subtly as I looked at them, echoing the chaos we'd seen on the menu board and Abernathy's strange drawing. Holding it made my teeth ache, made the hairs on my arm lift with static. Anything? I asked Kevin, pocketing the strange object. Nothing. Just the usual breakers. No master override. He slumped against the wall, despair washing over his face. We're stuck here until morning shift arrives. What do we tell them? Before I could answer, a single fluorescent tube directly above us flickered erratically, buzzing loudly. The wall clock nearby, previously dark, flashed briefly. 1997. Then it went dead again. From the front of the store, muffled but clear, came a single soft click from the ruined drive-through speaker. It wasn't over. It was just resting. We were locked inside with it. Panic gave way to frantic, desperate action. We tore the office apart, searching for any hidden switch, any manual release for the lockdown shutters. Nothing. Kevin tried prying the back door with a metal shelf bracket, but it wouldn't budge. Dawn began to filter through the gaps in the main door shutters, casting weak gray stripes across the chaotic red glow of the emergency lights. Hope seemed impossibly distant. Then I remembered the supervisor's device, still humming faintly in my pocket. On impulse, driven by sheer desperation, I pulled it out. The symbols on its surface seemed clearer now, less random. One looked vaguely like a stylized unlock icon. Worth a shot. Pointing it at the main door control panel near the office, I pressed the symbol. The device hummed louder, pulsed once with warmth, and with a groan of protesting metal, the main door shutters began to slowly retract. Freedom. We didn't wait. We scrambled out into the cool, clean air of the Texas dawn, leaving the wrecked, chemical-stinking tomb of the Burger King behind us. My beat-up Civic sat where I'd left it, miraculously untouched. We piled in, me fumbling with the keys, Kevin watching the BK nervously, as if expecting something to follow us out. The engine caught, sputtered, then roared to life. I slammed it into reverse, tires squealing, and peeled out of the parking lot, heading for the highway on-ramp, towards Amarillo proper, towards sanity. We drove in silence for what felt like 10 minutes. The rising sun painting the flat plains in glorious shades of orange and gold. Relief washed over me in waves, so potent it almost made me dizzy. We'd survived. We'd escaped. We need to tell someone, Kevin said finally, his voice rough. The cops? The news? Who would believe us? I countered, though the same thought hammered in my head. We'd sound insane. He was about to argue when I saw the sign. I-40 East. Amarillo City limits 5 miles. Wait, we should have reached the city already. I glanced at the dashboard clock. It read 5:45 a.m. It had read 5:45 a.m. when we left the BK parking lot. Unease prickled my skin again. I took the next exit, planning to loop back and try a different route. We drove through familiar-looking scrubland, past a derelict gas station I recognized, past the access road leading back to the Burger King. No, Kevin whispered. Seeing it too. No, that's not right. We tried again. Drove further down the highway, took a different exit. 10 minutes later, impossibly, we were passing the same derelict gas station, the same access road, the BK sign visible again in the distance. We tried heading west instead. Same result. Every route we took, every turn we made, eventually looped us back, depositing us spitting distance from the place we were desperately trying to flee. The sun seemed frozen just above the horizon, refusing to climb further into the morning sky. David, heart sinking with the horror, colder than any ghost, I pulled back into the Burger King parking lot. The emergency lights were off now. The normal fluorescent lights buzzed within, casting that familiar, sickly glow. The shutters were fully retracted. It looked normal. Waiting. We pushed the door open and stepped back inside. The chemical smell was fainter. The worst of the debris seemed less. Or maybe we were just numb. And sitting in his usual booth, nursing a black coffee, was Mr. Abernathy. He looked up as we entered, his expression unreadable. "Rough night?" he asked mildly. He gestured with his cup towards the counter. "Shift change always takes a bit. You'll get used to it." I looked at Kevin. His face mirrored my own dawning, sickening realization. There was no escape. The highway didn't lead away anymore. The sun wouldn't fully rise for us. This was the job now. This was the life. We were part of the containment, part of the anomaly. Wordlessly, numbly, I walked behind the counter, found a discarded apron, and tied it around my waist. Kevin did the same. The fluorescent lights buzzed overhead. Outside, a truck rumbled past on the highway, heading somewhere we could no longer reach. The clock on the wall read 6:00 a.m. and stayed there. Welcome to the permanent closing time. The supervisor's gone. The portal is closed, but the register still dings at 6 a.m., and time hasn't moved since. This store isn't a restaurant anymore. It's a loop, a containment site, and we're just the combo meal. If you made it to the end, you already broke Rule 4. Don't linger past sunrise. Let us know in the comments. Which rule would you break first? And don't forget to subscribe to Night Creepypasta Rules, because next week's story is about a gas station off Exit 12 that stopped selling fuel in 1983. But customers still show up, hungry. We'll be here when they do.